We are seeing more and more people growing their own edible plants and cooking with their homegrown healthy produce. This series, Chef Russell Blaikie from the TV series Delish has joined us to share some simple, tasty barbecue recipes.
Barbecuing is an Aussie rite of passage. There is no better time than right now to grab your barbecue like I have with a new 6-burner, pull it out of the garage, dust it off and fire it up for the season. I'm doing a take on an 80s dish. It's like, if you remember, asparagus out of a tin wrapped in ham. Well, I'm using fresh spears of asparagus. I'm wrapping them in pancetta and popping them on the barbecue with a basil dressing. So, you know, asparagus is originally native to the countries around the Mediterranean. It loves sea air. It grows really close to the ocean. And the Romans were the first to cultivate it. They took it on their conquests right throughout Europe, where they planted cow and sheep horns in the furrows as they were growing it. They tended to let it grow out, as we do now, for 2 or 3 years. So the spear blooms into a large bush, and that actually sets the roots, so you get really good spears. You see white asparagus spears sometimes, and that's because the French developed a technique where they'd mound sand over the top of the spears as they grew, starving the spear of light, no chlorophyll, no green, and you get this beautiful, sweet white asparagus that we know is expensive. These days, farmers use plastic black tunnels over the top of the asparagus to do the same sort of blanching. Got them all peeled. Let's wrap these in pancetta just so that I can get them on the barbecue. Really simple process. Start at the base and roll that around just like a barber pole. Doesn't have to go the full way up. Pop that on a plate and keep them going. This is going to impart a really sexy flavour to these spears. We've got them all wrapped. Now let's get these babies on the barbie. Cook the asparagus over the char section of the barbecue. Resist the temptation to turn the grill onto the high setting. You don't want to burn the pancetta. Drop the lid down while you're cooking. Keeping the heat trapped will speed up the cooking process and your asparagus won't dry out. Don't be scared to undercook your asparagus. These spears are perfectly delicious, even when eaten raw. We've got our asparagus cooked, it's ready to roll. And now for a super simple dressing with fresh basil. We'll just slice that up, pop it into our bowl here of the food processor. We'll throw some verjuice, some unfermented grape juice in there, a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, just to wet that down, and a little bit of Dijon mustard, touch of sugar, about 1/4 teaspoon of sugar, and some fresh shallot. And don't forget, a tiny bit of salt, not too much, because there's salty pancetta wrapped around your asparagus. Let's get this over the top of this beautiful dish, and this is spring on a plate.